Jeremy Christian, the Portland train murders. Jeremy Christian's crime shocked the nation, not only for its brutality but also for his lack of remorse. On May 26, 2017, he boarded a MAX train in Portland, Oregon, and began hurling hateful, racist slurs at two teenage girls, one of whom was wearing a hijab, making them the focus of his Islamophobic outburst. As tensions rose, three men, Taliesin Namkai Meche, Ricky Best, and Micah Fletcher, stepped in to protect the girls. Christian responded with sudden, horrific violence, drawing a knife and attacking them. Namkai Meche and Best were fatally stabbed, while Fletcher was seriously wounded but survived. The horror extended beyond Christian's violent attack on the train and continued into the courtroom, where his behavior further deepened the anguish of the victims' families.
Mayor either, bitch. You ain't gonna be mayor either, bitch.
He shouted hateful remarks, mocked those mourning their loved ones, and unapologetically claimed pride in his actions. His conduct showed no trace of remorse or compassion, as he brazenly insulted the very people devastated by his violence. Christian's unrepentant demeanor stood as a chilling reflection of his extremist views and complete disregard for human life. Christian's utter lack of remorse deepened the trauma for the families of his victims. In a heartfelt statement, Taliesin Namkai Meche's mother spoke of her son's courage and selflessness, qualities that stood in stark contrast to Christian's hatred and arrogance. The families were repeatedly forced to confront their grief, as Christian's behavior in court appeared deliberately cruel and provocative. His total absence of empathy made the prospect of finding closure seem painfully out of reach. Despite Christian's defiant attitude, his actions could not overshadow the bravery of the men who stood up to him. The community responded by honoring the courage and compassion of those who intervened, ensuring that the legacy of that tragic day would be defined by heroism, not hatred. Randall Moore, a senseless murder in Indiana. In 2016, Randall Moore committed a horrific act of violence that took the life of his ex-girlfriend, Lacey Smith, in Bloomington, Indiana. Although their relationship had ended, Moore refused to move on. Consumed by rage, he tracked Lacey down, cornered her, and stabbed her more than 20 times in a brutal attack. This senseless act ended the life of a young woman full of promise and left her family shattered by grief. What deepened the family's anguish was Moore's refusal to explain his actions or express any remorse. His silence left them with a painful void of unanswered questions, making the path to healing even more difficult. Lacey's parents spoke of the profound loss of their vibrant daughter and the bright future that was stolen from her, while Moore remained emotionless and unresponsive. His complete lack of acknowledgement felt like a further blow, adding insult to their overwhelming grief. The case shed light on a widespread issue in intimate partner violence, where control and possessiveness can escalate into deadly consequences. In the wake of their loss, Lacey's family turned their grief into advocacy, raising awareness and promoting support for victims of domestic abuse. While Moore's lack of remorse highlighted his cruelty, the family's resolve to honor Lacey's life ensured that his indifference would not be the defining element of her story. Camia Gamet, a monster in court. Camia Gamet's crime is remembered for its extreme brutality and her disturbing demeanor in court. In 2014, in Jackson, Michigan, Gamet carried out a prolonged and violent assault on her boyfriend, Marcel Hill, ultimately killing him. She used a frying pan, knives, and other objects to beat him to death in an act marked by relentless cruelty. Hill's family spoke of the horror of his final moments, mourning the loss of a loving and kind man who endured unimaginable suffering. What made the case even more notorious was Gamet's disturbing behavior during the trial. Throughout the proceedings, she displayed no remorse, laughing, rolling her eyes, and making sarcastic remarks as Hill's family delivered emotional testimonies about their devastating loss. Her dismissive and mocking attitude stunned both the courtroom and the public. The presiding judge, visibly disturbed by her conduct, referred to her as a monster and harshly criticized both her actions and her callousness. Her total lack of empathy and blatant disregard for the victim's suffering became a defining aspect of the trial. Marcel Hill's family expressed profound sorrow not only over the loss of their loved one, but also over the sense of injustice they felt as Gamet's disturbing courtroom behavior often went unaddressed. They were haunted by the thought of Hill's final moments, marked by unimaginable pain and deeply hurt by Gamet's apparent disregard for his life. The courtroom became a secondary battleground, where the family fought to have their voices heard amidst her mockery and indifference. For them, the trial was about more than justice. It was about upholding Marcel's dignity in the face of cruelty. Through their statements, they highlighted his kindness, his love, and the emptiness his absence left behind. While Gamet's lack of remorse could never be undone, the family's unwavering resolve to honor Marcel's memory stood as a powerful act of resilience, ensuring that his life, not his killer's cruelty, would define his legacy. Keith Allen Ferguson, the family destroyer. Keith Allen Ferguson's crime was a profound act of betrayal. In 2011, he murdered his wife, Rebecca, and two of their sons, Caleb and Isaac, inside their quiet Texas home. The brutal killing sent shockwaves through the community, as Ferguson, once seen as a devoted family man, carried out one of the most horrific acts imaginable: the murder of his own family. While the details revealed a scene of rage and destruction, it was Ferguson's behavior in the aftermath that left the deepest impression on those following the case. When Ferguson stood trial, he exhibited no remorse for his actions. He sat in silence, expressionless, avoiding eye contact with the surviving relatives and offering no words of apology. His detached, emotionless demeanor was a stark contrast to the heartbreaking testimonies from Rebecca's and the children's loved ones, who spoke of their profound grief. Ferguson's refusal to acknowledge the pain he caused only magnified their suffering. To the family left behind, his cold indifference served as a painful reminder of the man who had shattered their lives without a trace of regret. The aftermath of Ferguson's crime left a lasting scar on his community. Friends and neighbors who had once viewed him as a loving father and husband struggled to reconcile that image with the horror of his actions. For Rebecca's surviving relatives, the murders felt like a deeply personal betrayal, shattering their sense of trust and leaving them with a profound feeling of vulnerability and loss. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Ferguson remained emotionless and unrepentant, a decision that denied the victims' families the sense of closure they so desperately needed. His lack of remorse was not just a refusal to accept responsibility. It was a continuation of the pain he had already caused. For Rebecca's loved ones, their strength lay in preserving the memory of her and her sons, determined not to let Ferguson's cold indifference overshadow the lives and legacies of those he took away. Ronnie O'Neal III, a trial filled with chaos. Ronnie O'Neal III committed a crime of shocking brutality in March 2018 in Riverview, Florida. He brutally murdered his girlfriend, Camia Gamet, and their 9-year-old daughter, Ron Nevaeh, in a horrifying attack. He also tried to kill his 8-year-old son, who miraculously survived after being stabbed and set on fire. While the violence of the crime was deeply disturbing, O'Neal's conduct during his trial brought an additional level of cruelty and disbelief to an already tragic case. Acting as his own attorney, O'Neal turned the courtroom into a scene of chaos and disturbance. He shouted at witnesses, frequently interrupted the proceedings, and went on disjointed, angry tirades. In one of the most disturbing moments, he cross-examined his own son, forcing the young boy to relive the traumatic attack in open court. Throughout the trial, O'Neal showed no remorse, instead portraying himself as the target of a fabricated conspiracy. For Camia's family, the experience was a nightmare, an agonizing revisit of their grief made worse by O'Neal's manipulative and mocking conduct. His actions left a lasting scar on all those who sought justice for the innocent lives he destroyed. Camia Gamet's family described the trial as a cruel spectacle, where O'Neal's outrageous behavior overshadowed the seriousness of his horrific crimes. His complete lack of remorse felt like a final insult to the memory of their loved ones. After enduring the unimaginable pain of his actions, They were once again re-traumatized by his blatant disregard for their suffering in the courtroom. Despite O'Neal's efforts to derail the proceedings, the evidence against him was undeniable. The court's final verdict offered a measure of justice, but it couldn't heal the deep emotional wounds left behind. For Kenyatta's family, their strength was rooted in their enduring love for her and Ron Nevaeh. Their commitment to preserving their memories stood as a powerful rebuttal to O'Neal's cruelty, showing that even in the face of such darkness, love and resilience can prevail.